What's up, people? Welcome back to another video. This time I'm gonna go over binary star sword gods and the beauty incarnation correction real quick. After did quite a bit of testing, now finally figured it out what are those two really do. So it actually changes quite a bit, but also it'll be very interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna get started. Let's do this. Okay, so why do I talk about this passive, if you ask? Well, first of all, like for the longest time, the best armor in the entire game, well, they were giving the binary star sword god. So basically, this passive was originally, named. It was described as chain damage plus 10%. So that was long time ago. Like I say, like maybe many patches ago. Like so, if anybody like played the older version, like while during Extreme Ray first release and etc., they will know this passive used to be damage 10%. However, during one of those patches, they changed it. It was mistaken by the wording. It was a mistranslation, and it's not supposed to be 10% chain damage. Now they changed it to chain burst, risk correction. Now, what does the correction mean? Like we know what chain burst risks. That's kind of obvious, but what are the correction means? Plus 10%. Now, the first thing is that I asked, friends from JP, and I showed them the screenshot from JP about the JP version of the this wording. So it was basically they never changed it. It was somewhat of correction. So basically, it was fine in Japanese, but when it comes to the US, it translates somehow to the damage, which it was confusing. Now they changed the word to correction, and we don't even know if it's damage or correction. However, after the testing, I'm gonna tell you guys, it was never to be a damage to begin with. So the steel riding armor with the passive, it was never a damage 10%. So even if they changed the wording, it doesn't matter, because there was no 10% chain damage in this game to begin with. So it is kind of confusing. I was wondering why and what it does after they changed the risk correction. So after a bit of testing, I can tell you guys, it is very like tiny of differences between the risks. When you're trying to just get chain, and the risk will go up higher. So that's what it does. It basically increases the risk, not damage. So the other thing comes to, do you really need the passive for the steel riding armor anymore? The answer is not necessarily. Now, most people probably don't even, back then we used to be like farming the steel armor with a passive, but now you don't need to farm the steel armor with a passive. It is definitely not needed anymore. But I will tell you when it will need it if you do decide to farm a passive. But majority of the time, you will not need this. Like 90 to 95% of the time, you do not need this passive. I'll get to why. Now, the first thing is, why do we need this passive? Now, basically, it was your chain risk every time you chain. It's about 0.3 differences increasing. So without the passive, it will be around 0.2. So plus minus a few, 0.0 something differences. But other than that, the only places you can get the chain risk is from the Reaper's Wrath. That has the chain as well. So basically, chain risk is kind of pointless to have because most of the time your risk will increase so fast. You don't really need it. That's the reason why I'm talking about this, like the chain part, the risk is because steel I'm like the steel armor. It's in many of my builds and stuff, and it will be in the future. So that's why I'm trying to clarify if the passive is needed or not needed anymore. So maybe it will be a lot easier to farm the steel armor without the passive. So most of the time you'll be getting like the 60s. But man, there's no passive. But now you don't need to worry about it too much. The the only time considered like the passive is needed is that if you're really doing the speed kill. Like other than that you don't need the passive because like the chain risk goes up, the fastest get to 6.0, the more like damage, the less time you'll save. Other than that, I don't see a point where you will need this passive at all because it is like minor, like by under like 0 point is basically down to zero, down to point 0.1. So that's not that much differences between like a few points, so it's minor. It's very. I mean, if it translate what it translate, it's just gonna be like a second or two or a few faster. That's it. Like that's the only differences when it comes down to steel armor. If you need a passive or not, majority of the time, if you just want to beat the raids, you don't need a passive. The passive is no longer needed for the steel armor because since it's not really useful. I mean, it will be useful, but it won't be like needing it. So okay, now let's talk about beauty incarnation, because this is similar to the steel armor passive. So most of the stuff that I talk about is basically important for the builds. Now the beauty incarnation is the same wording, which means the same as the steel armor. It does nothing special besides increase the risk. However, the beauty incarnation, it's not meant for like it's not meant to have that correction, plus 50%. That second part for like the AI because it does not activate. So the chain level 4 will activate. That's the whole purpose of having the beauty incarnation is to activate that level 4 chain. If one of your AI has the equip on, you can get that level 4 chain without using the brand of the flower blade to reach level 4 chain. So that was the only reason this was used. However, like the chain risk correction does not work on AIs. You cannot get that 50% from the AI. I think most of the incarnation that also I discovered that in order to make these incarnation works, like most of the incarnation do not share among of the AIs and your player. So regardless who has the incarnation, it doesn't matter. It won't share. But like the beauty incarnation will share chain level 4, which is strange because out of all the incarnation, there's not like I haven't tested all of them yet, but I know that there's most of them that I use it there they will not share. So the level 4 chain, that was the only reason they kept that beauty incarnation is to use it. The only way to activate the risk correction is by doing this. Like if you want to customize the level 4, the beauty incarnation for it, which is to me it seems useless. Like you don't want this customized because down damage is obviously much better. So the only way to activate the chain risk correction is to put it on yourself. Either do custom. If you don't do customization, you have to put it on the main. So in other words, it's not really useful besides putting on your AI. That's why you see most of the build that I have that I always put one on AI. That's it, because AI don't really have many good incarnation. So there's only a couple I can think of. But to clarify, the beauty incarnation is that the level 4 chain works. The risk correction does not work. So, which is weird. One skill works and one skill doesn't work. That doesn't make any sense. But still, the whole point of talking about this topic was to clarify, to make correction. Like the game made it a few updates, like just to make these clear, but it's not clear. So after testing and stuff, it's actually much more clear now because they don't tell us anything. So in order to find out what actually do, I have to test it quite a bit. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoy it. It was kind of like weird, like discussion, like talk about the chain risk and what does the chain risk really do, because when they could have just simply say, risk increased, that's much more clear. But correction does not equal increasing. So it is strange the way they word it. So that's it, pretty much just clarify those two. You want the steel armor, you don't have to get a passive anymore if you don't want to. It's not necessary anymore. It's by small fraction if you're going for those speed kills, just by small few seconds. Other than that, no point. But like, if you still want to definitely keep the beauty incarnation, but you will not get the risk correction, but you still will get the level 4 chain. So that was the whole conclusion of this, topic. And it took a while to figure out because many of us were still wondering, what is the correction mean? I mean, we know what the risk means. Like, what is the correction mean? Does that mean increase? But after all, there's collect a lot of data. So it's very small, very small increase. So yeah, it's not really worth of getting steel armor, the passive, at this point, since it doesn't really do anything, so too much. But yeah, anybody who wants to farm steel armor in the future, don't really need it. Because back then we all farmed steel armor trying to get the passive. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Also, maybe in the future they will introduce like an actual chain damage. That would be very cool passive to have. But yeah, other than that, not much. But steel armor, it is still the best armor with or without a passive. So that can't be argued at the moment. We'll just have to see if there's better armor that will top off steel armor, but I say it might. But judging by the stats of steel armor giving, it is beyond like a lot of armors at this point. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the video. So got more questions, feel free to ask. I already post a bunch like stuff in Discord, like the explanations and like the status, the data they collected. So it is very intriguing though. Like when sometimes you dive deep into the game mechanics, you'll learn a lot of stuff. It's good to test. That's the only way to find out because the games really don't tell you. It's kind of fun too sometimes. So yeah, next time come back, I'll make other, I'm going back to making the build videos and stuff, and then add here and there some explanation or some new builds that I want to talk about at some point. That's about it. Alright, anyway, hope you guys enjoy it. Until next time.